I'm recording!
Hey everybody, I'm Michael.
And I'm Micah.
And this is the Sound Good podcast, where we talk about new albums and albums that we recommend to each other. You know the shtick by now. I'm sure you do. Anyway, this week we're talking about Death Grips' new album, Year of the Snitch. Just came out on June 22nd. I believe only digitally. I don't think any physical copies have come out yet. I know the vinyl is not coming out until September. But I think currently right now you can only find it digitally, and you might be able to get CDs. I don't know. I didn't really look into it that much. But without further ado, we will get into our general thoughts of the album for the opening, and then we'll go track by track, like we always do with these long album episodes, and then we'll give a nice little wrap up at the end and call it good. So, to start off, Micah,
What's up?
what was your general overview of this album, my dude?
So yeah, I should probably give. I do not want to call this a review. It'll be more. I'll share thoughts that I had on Year of the Snitch, but
Yeah, for sure.
Because literally, I've heard Guillotine. Because who hasn't? And then I saw them live with you. And I have no idea what that set like. That was noise coming at my face.
So you're gonna be talking about this from the point of view of somebody who has heard one song and then a live show. So that'll be
all I remember
from
the live show. All I remember from the live show was Contrived Boy.
Oh,
that's it.
Fuck! Let's not even talk about him, man. Whew. Whew.
So yeah, I don't know. This album, yeah, coming in as kind of a pretty fresh person, very very jarring the first time. But there was a lot of stuff that I appreciated, I would say. It's definitely, like, if you would consider yourself a person who's open-minded towards music, you would appreciate the experience, and there would be some stuff that you would find that you really enjoy.
Is there, like, anything, like, general that you enjoyed, or do you want to just save that stuff for the tracks?
Probably save it for the tracks, because a lot of the
fine.
time, like, I either liked some of the experimental stuff, or there were a few parts that I would probably nitpick that maybe I didn't like, but it's experimental. Like,
perfect.
Hey.
Yeah, perfect, dude. So then, with that, let's just go right into talking about the first track. Death Grips is Online is the first track of this album, and I gotta say, personally, coming from somebody who has listened to the entire discography, this song sounds nothing like any other Death Grips song I could possibly think of, and that's saying something, considering that no Death Grips song sounds like a song Death Grips would do. So I just this track, it just starts off with very soaring chords and like almost like an EDM instrumental going with it for the intro, and like the breaks in between verses and stuff. I guess you could call it the hook. It would be the hook chorus, hook chords and all that stuff. But it's probably one of my favorite tracks on the album, honestly, and I think it's such a strong opener, just with the way MC Ride has his vocals like kind of down in the mix a little bit during that, or if they even are his vocals, I'm not sure. They sound kind of feminine to me. But the vocals mixed in the beginning of the track sound really good. I love the verses, just how much energy they have, and like I don't know. I like the hook. I like the verses. They kind of did a little. It must have been like they did a little teaser for this, I believe, a year or so ago, after Death Grips kind of disappeared off of Twitter for a while, and they randomly came back one day last year, or it was a year or two ago. They randomly came back one day with the tweet, "Death Grips is online." And
yeah, I was wondering where that came from.
Yeah,
when everybody was spamming that whenever they posted a new single.
Yep, they started that like last year. They just randomly came back to Twitter, and their first tweet back was "Death Grips is online." So that's
honestly,
kinda...
that's a pretty good slogan for fans to like say.
Oh yeah, man, it was pretty dope. So yeah, what'd you think?
I absolutely love, like, right off the bat, it was a really good first impression, because I really love when you can get really complex and interesting with synth things, and they got really cool. I would say that the parts of this track that I didn't really like were the kind of shrieking parts that MC Ride does, you know?
Oh, I know.
And it's not that it's objectively bad, it's just that it unsettles me, and obviously I think that was the point.
Oh, yeah.
Because preceding that, you get like this, where it's like, I think after the first, because it sounds like, yeah, you're right, it sounds like a female or maybe like a kid, like, kind of voice.
Or just pitch shift vocals, like, it could just very well just be pitch shifted vocals, and we could just be being stupid.
After the first time that it does the pitch shifted vocals into him doing the shriek, it does like this, I don't know, I was out on a run once and I heard somebody leaf blowing, and like that kind of droning sound that starts playing, you know?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
There's like this like kind of drone that they start doing. It's very Silent Hill, and it's just, it unsettles me. But I thought that was really cool. I still don't like the shrieking very much, but I like all the instrumental stuff that they do around that.
Yeah, I dig I really dig the sound, like the stylistic swap, like the mix up with going from the hook, like the really soaring chords, into the very minimal drone bass and synth beat. Mm-hmm. Like, I really dig that transition. Death Grips has always done a bunch of jarring transitions in their music. Like, that's just Death Grips, you know? So it's like, it was good to hear that again, and in such an interesting way. Because a lot of times it's just, their jarring transitions are just, they're just transitions. It's just they stop really quick or they go right into something else. But this was like a complete different style change, which is really cool. Yeah. So I dug that a lot about this track.
Oh yeah, no, totally. Like the drum beat with the, I don't know, just the way that the keys are kind of going all over the place over him doing verses is super solid.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It was great. Yeah. But I think that.
Yeah, I mean,
that's kind of all the thoughts I have.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I got to talk about that one too. Well, I guess we'll go into Flies next then.
Coolers, half losses. Statement Denver air terminal patient.
So this song, I think was it the first song they put out for this album?
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was. Okay, so this song, the music video was really freaky, in my opinion.
rip epileptic people.
Yeah, that probably not a good music video to watch if you got epilepsy.
It gave Incredibles 2 a run for its money with the whole seizure warning.
Like any kind of light sensitivity and flashing light sensitivity, I would not watch the music video, just because it is literally 3 minutes of MC Ride on the screen, flashing from black to him to back again, with the song playing over it. Like, there's nothing really gained from watching the music video, in my opinion.
I mean, it was kind of genius, like, visualization of what the song feels like.
Yes, though. Yes, that has always been a thing I appreciate about Death Grips, is their visual performance, along with their musical performance, they're always on par with each other, I feel.
Because it was literally like, what does this song feel like? And it's like, yeah, that.
Yeah. The lyrics on this song are pretty intense too. The hook or chorus, whatever you want to call it, the lyrics for that, should the opportunity arise, flies vomit me, flies, you know, like all that shit, like talking about just talking about flies, like I don't know, just like puking and like all this like disgusting wordplay and stuff, and it's disgusting lyrically, but it's such a catchy song, man. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
This song is a banger, dude. Like, there's
I would put it up there. Like, and maybe not my all-time favorite from the album, but it's I would say top 3.
It's such an intense track. Like this whole album is pretty intense. Like just like the energy of Death Grips is very felt through this song also. It's a good it's a good song to keep the momentum that Death Grips is Online just started. And I feel like this album actually has a really good, as a whole, has a really good dynamic curve to where the intro kind of ramps you up and then you'll hit a peak at about ha 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 or shit show, and then it kind of not relaxes isn't the right word, but it goes down in tone a little bit.
So the first like up to Linda's in Custody is where it gets a little more focused and maybe a little less experimental, maybe.
Oh, so you think like earlier in the album it kind of focuses down?
Well,
I
think kicking off with the horn section.
Oh, okay.
They stop being overly weird.
Yeah. Okay.
Like they get it out of their system by then, you know. And the songs are a tiny bit more structured.
Oh, stop being overly weird. I don't know, dude. I just drink blood, dude.
Because Linda's in Custody is out there.
That is,
it's crazy.
Song. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah. So for Flies, I feel like it's a little more successful in being a listenable experimental track. Because like I said, Death Grips is Online. It had those moments of like, hell yeah, this is great. But then like it had like the shrieking part where you're like, I don't know. Flies is like experimental kind of for the vast majority of it, but it's like really cool experimental. You know, it's not like
it's just it just has that Death Grips feel to it. You know, it's got that little that kind of what seems like minimalism, like but kind of it's minimalism with a big sound. So it's really like contradictory of what it sounds like, but they do it so well that it works. So yeah, do you want to move on to Black Paint now then? Black Paint, third track on the album. This is probably one of my. I mean, not one of my. I think it's a hard tie between Black Paint and Flies for my favorite song on this album. Honestly, even though I know I said Death Grips Online is my favorite song, it's not. I lied. Black Paint or Flies definitely is up there though for me. Like. Just the intensity of how MC Ride just shouts black paint, like that's that song just gets me so hyped, gets me so like ready to, it makes me want to go like just drive really fast.
Yeah, that kind of vibe. I totally get that now that you put it like that.
Yeah.
The way that the chorus goes with the whole black paint thing is like, when I first listened to it, this goes for Linda's in Custody too, I like that they put these two kind of jarring tracks by each other. Is that so you kind of worded it as you want to drive fast. The way I kind of thought about it was that these two tracks would be great as like music for people standing in line at like a haunted house, because like to just disorient the people before they go in and they're like, what? Oh.
Hey man, if I was in line for a haunted house and I heard Black Paint blaring over the speakers,
could you like? It kind of fits, right?
I could see it.
Like just being overly loud and just making people like high tension.
Right. Yeah, I could see it. Yeah, because this song does definitely kind of make you tense. It makes you like. The song almost puts you on edge a little bit. You're just like.
And this was one of the first. This is the first track on the album that has audible guitar.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And it's pretty solid.
It does have a pretty solid guitar track on it, which Death Grips isn't known for using. Or I guess they use quite a bit of guitar in some of their tracks. I know they use a lot of them on The Powers That Be. I know Bottomless Pit has quite a bit of guitar on it. Their first mixtape, Ex-Military, has a bit of guitar on it. So I mean, it's cool hearing guitar, and I'm always interested in what they use the guitar for in their tracks whenever I do hear it. So yeah, no, I forgot about that guitar in this track. Yeah, thanks for bringing that back up because I did want to mention that.
Yeah, and I think honestly, it's gonna sound really flipped in my considering me, who's a big progressive rock guy. I kind of liked the first third a bit more than when the guitar came in, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like, and I do like the guitar parts, but I like where they were going more just with the heavy, like, black paint part.
Yeah.
Before they got into the verses with the guitar.
Sure, yeah, I dig
But
that.
it's cool that they progressed into that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good. They definitely transitioned into it well. It's not like a bad jarring. It's not like anything like that. It's just a very solid transition into the guitar riff.
Mm-hmm.
So, despite it being my favorite song, that's probably all I really got to say on it. It's just a really high energy track, really driving, really intense, just tenses you up and. Urgh!
Yeah, and I feel like I don't know what genre to compare. Like, what kind of genre would you say that guitar riff is?
That's where I would go into punk. I would consider that a punk
Okay.
guitar riff, honestly.
And it feels a lot more pure, like, not kind of what modern punk has become.
Yeah,
it
it's
feels
just
a lot more like a throwback to
very
a certain
fuzzy
punk style.
It's just very fuzzy, very noisy, very loud punk, which is the best. So
Whenever guitar does show up on this album, or there's another example that I want to kind of go back to. There's a lot of parts where maybe it's the experimental side of them. It feels like they're doing throwbacks to other genres. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah. Well, they do sample themselves quite a bit in this album too. If you didn't know that, so
I had no idea.
Fun fact. Yeah.
That's funny. But it never feels like across the album whenever they do other genres, it's not like they're doing a singular genre that they're referencing. It's pretty all over the place. There's a lot of rock genres referenced on this album, I would say.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it's super cool to hear.
So okay, you want to just move on to Linda's in Custody now?
Absolutely.
Significant piece in the spill. Look, Pino, worn out my gills. Classical rap, perhaps I'll swear. My growth mainly, but can't conceal. Word, yeah, you know the drill. Took last right up on a long sweet tail. Took last drop on demonic scales. Compromise your position, become theirs.
All right.
This one's a lot more on the side of unsettling and like serving as haunted house like music because the carnival synth,
Yeah. I was actually that was gonna be the first thing I was gonna mention too.
it scares me.
The synth in this song is very bouncy, very lighthearted, very like.
Carnival synth just puts me on, like, it's dark to me. I don't. It's terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, the entire song is like, it seems like they went down in intensity a little bit, but they maintain the tension that you get. So like, the song itself is not as intense as, let's say, Black Paint or Flies, but it keeps you in that sense of tension to where you're like, where you're just coming off Black Paint going, ooh, yeah, I'm all tense up and pumped up, and then Linda's in Custody hits, and you're like, okay, I'm worried, but I'm still tense. Mm-hmm. It's a nice track to throw you off your feet.
Because it's so dissonant.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree on that.
But where this song ends up going, it gets super.
Yeah, like
it gets really cool.
with the DJ scratching and all that going on. It's a very very unorthodox.
The main drum beat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was curious because, I mean, I'll divulge that we may have spoiled ourselves a bit and watched a certain melon review this album.
Oh, I mean, I'm not like you said, dude. I'm not letting that.
I didn't internalize a lot of it though, so
No.
I didn't really generate opinions. But
Yeah, I'm not letting that fuel anything I say.
I heard him mention, because I was always wondering what Linda's in Custody was referring to.
Oh yeah.
And apparently they have this long running thing of referencing the Manson murders in their albums, and I guess that's the Linda that they're talking about.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so that's what apparently Year of the Snitch is referring to also, that she snitched on Charles Manson.
Okay,
you know?
that's actually really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I googled Linda, and yeah, apparently she was like one of the main people that outed Charles Manson during those trials.
Oh, cool. Well, shit.
But so that also lends itself to why that's such an unsettling track.
Yeah, right. For sure.
Makes a lot more sense.
So, so you want to move on from Linda's in Custody then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I guess next up, then we're gonna combine the horn section with Ha 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 and kind of talk about them all in one little grouping here, since the horn section is just a 1.5 minute long, like instrumental drum solo synth break. And then Ha 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 is the actual track that comes after it. Mm-hmm. So you said the horn section is probably one of your favorite, or is your favorite track. So I mean, you can talk about it as much as you want right now, and I can kind of give my little opinions on it. Or I'm gonna cut this part, or I can just cut what you said earlier about it and put it over here.
Yeah, you can just do that.
Okay.
Because I was just gonna say the same thing.
So then,
it's just a very high energy moshable song.
So then, what do you think of the horn section leading into Ha Ha Ha? Like, I guess what do you think of Ha Ha Ha?
Well, so yeah, I was kind of double checking just now, and it definitely continues the very like intricate synth work right after horn section, because like I know that Ha 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 is maybe one of the more structured songs, like in terms of chorus, but like it definitely keeps up the like kind of, I don't know how I would describe it.
Well, what do you think of the like the soaring synths they use, like the angelic voices, like during the verses and stuff? Like, I've never heard that before in a Death Grips track, so it was really cool, like just hearing the oh over the verse.
Oh, I didn't like that. Was again unsettling to me.
Yeah,
actually.
Even though they kind of went for a more angelic and more heavenly sound as opposed to like the creepy.
See, heavenly implies not creepy and pretty.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's what I got from it, but
this felt very memey, and yeah, I didn't like that female voice that they had in there.
Yeah.
Like, or pitch shifted voice or whatever, but I think it was only that singular time, like kind of at the start of the track, right?
No, like during like all of the verses, there's they have a solid, like they have a chord that they seem to hold and just kind of like let it go, like fade down.
That's fine.
Then they have another one where it's just like right after that. It might be only in the first half of the song, but they've got the angelic like before the chorus.
Yeah, it's specifically that I'm not into. But like the one that gets sustained throughout the chorus
this song
that you're talking about,
has a guitar solo.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
It has a little guitar solo section in it. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I would definitely consider the way that the chord progression is handled in the chorus for the guitar is a lot more standard rock, and it's super cool.
Yeah.
Cause it diverges away from like that punk feel that Black Paint had and goes into
more
just kind of
standard
like
droney rock sound. Yeah,
that you would expect from like a classic rock band, and
sure,
it's very interesting that they go into that.
Yeah. All right. Well, do we want to talk about Shit Show and Streaky together, or Shit Show by itself? I think we could do Shit Show by itself, honestly.
Oh yeah, no, I have a decent amount to talk about with Shit Show.
Okay. So, should we just go straight into Shit Show then?
Yeah.
All right. So, Shit Show is only 1 minute and 45 seconds long, and the video that Death Grips put out for this on YouTube actually got taken down by YouTube because supposedly
YouTube couldn't handle it.
Yeah, well, because supposedly the video contained certain clips.
Careful, we might get taken down.
Certain clips of porn fetishes. And
I mean, anything can be a porn fetish.
Yeah,
let's be real.
Yeah, but I mean, YouTube's starting to crack down on all that. So, but
it's just once you start having any bodily fluid / scat stuff, it's
Yeah.
That's the no fetish.
So yeah, that's the music video. So you said you had a lot to talk about this song, so let's hear it. I'll just kind of sit back and let you do your thing.
Yeah, totally. So I was talking about how it feels like whenever they do reference a rock genre, that it's always different each time, and it's interesting that there's no guitar on this song, but it is absolutely like the heaviest, craziest song to me on the album.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this is kind of their take or their version of like a thrash song a little bit.
I feel it.
Like,
yeah, this song
old,
definitely...
like old school thrash.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Like, this song definitely has the more noise punk vibes to it that I always attribute to Death Grips.
And specifically how it goes, you know, when they have the kind of...
The little fast drum part and all that? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, so when I say old school thrash, I mean, it made me think of songs like Madhouse by Anthrax or Institutionalized by Suicidal Tendencies, in the way that it's like, yes, the drums are crazy, and it goes verse, and then they say, like, the name of the song, which it's like that female pitch-shifted voice just saying shit show.
Oh, yeah.
And the way that it goes verse... singular word, verse, singular word, and it's just heavy throughout. I kind of had a little coined term of like pedal lyric or pedal vocal,
mm-hmm.
like a pedal tone.
Yeah,
you know, and it's that kind of classic thrash song structure, I guess, that I really appreciate.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the more chaotic Death Grip songs I've ever heard. In my opinion, honestly, I kind of wish it would have been longer. Honestly, if I'm being 100% honest.
Well, I think that's also where the thrash kind of comes into, where it's like, it was just so much happened and like so quickly. It was like, no, the song's over, dude.
Yeah,
It was a short song.
Definitely, it feels longer than it is, but yeah, it's just under 2 minutes long. So, yeah. And
I gotta say, I really like the intro. Like very bassy vocals.
Oh yeah.
It sounds. I was thinking about it today, and it sounds a lot like Will Smith from Men in Black 2 when he's speaking a certain alien language that just sounds like beatboxing.
So I guess we can move on to Streaky now, unless you have anything else to say.
No.
Streaky on the outside, standby dealer holding franchise. Southside, do me cause it sounds tight. Streaky on the outside, oh my, Booty on the outside, standby dealer holding franchise. Southside.
I don't know that I remember Streaky at all, just by name.
Streaky was a very, Streaky was one of the singles they released a video for, and it's very...
I remember this.
Weird how it starts off with the weird little synthesizer, little bam Bennett, and then he's saying streaky with it. Yeah. But yeah, this song kind of, after that little weird intro, it kind of flows pretty smoothly into a dreamy kind of hip-hop instrumental with a lot of bass drops and booms and...
Yeah, this kind of feels like the safest hip-hop song on the album.
Probably the most hip-hop song.
If they were trying to get on the radio, this would probably be the song that they would submit.
Definitely.
And like the way that the chorus is, we had like our friend. It's what Connor does. We'll just throw him under the bus. The way this chorus is, the way that like the kind of vocal that MC Ride is doing is that total.
Yeah, no, I totally know what you're talking about. I totally know.
I've seen you do it.
Yeah.
In that vein of this being the safest hip hop song, it was probably my least favorite song.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
It's still really good. It's just, it's not my jam.
Honestly, oh no, we'll get to it.
I like it more when it's experimental.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I remember this being one of the music videos Death Grips put out for it. I dig the, like you said, the safe sound to it. I dig just the overall tone of it also, just because it's a really dancey track. Like, it's kind of like you said, it's really dancey, makes you want to get up and do the little dance. But yeah, outside of any of that stuff, it's, you know, it's only 2 minutes 56 seconds long, just under 3 minutes. There's not a lot outside of delving into lyric meaning that we can really talk about it, because it doesn't really do anything hyper interesting. it's kind of like we have been saying, it is like the safest Death Grips song possible. Like, you could show that song probably to anybody and they'd be like, yeah, I like Death Grips, that's fine.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually kind of funny that we're saying this is the safest hip-hop song on the album, and that maybe it's not my most favorite, and it has the most nothing lyrics, apparently. Like,
yeah, right.
it's just funny that those go hand in hand whenever you're taught, like, yeah, if it's like poppy, catchy hip-hop, the lyrics mean nothing.
Oh, I mean, I just don't know what they mean. Like, I haven't
Okay.
really looked into the lyrics of a lot of these songs, because most of the time I kind of find that as a
Fool's errand.
a fruitless endeavor when it comes to Death Grips. Other people can see meaning in the lyrics. I just personally enjoy the way they sound when it comes to Death Grips. I don't tend to look too much into the lyrics, so that is something I kind of skipped on doing for this album. However, Streaky does kind of sound like a track where if I were to even do that, it wouldn't make that much of a difference in how much I enjoy the song.
Mm-hmm.
So, unless you have anything else to say, we can move on to Dilemma.
Yeah, no, we can go on.
Butterfly, ballistic, sack, survival, butcher, kukri, petrent, homicidal. Can't say I'm by them, just show up lately, seem to stalk me.
Okay, well, so Dilemma was this track that had, what was that guy's name that you said?
His name was Andrew Adamson, I want to say.
Andrew Adamson. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
if it's the film director we're talking about.
Yeah. The guy who does the vocal intro, the little spoken word intro to Dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this track was fairly weird to me.
The synth tone is chocolate cake.
Just like,
It's perfect.
yeah, the synth was really good. It sounds like they actually have an actual bass playing on this track too. Like, it's not like a synth bass. It sounds like a real bass, and that's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, before we found out that it was more additional personnel duties that Justin Chancellor had, this was the song that you thought that he was just featured on.
Yeah, this is the song that I thought Chancellor was on, actually, solely because it's the only track that sounds like it has an actual recorded bass. It sounds like they actually recorded a live bass for it. And I think that actually makes the song better, hearing it as a live bass. Just because it adds another layer of depth to the track itself. Because, sure, you can get away with the synth line and the synth bass line and the drums and MC Ride. You can get away with that, as Death Grips has in the past. But just having that extra layer of another bass track really adds to the fullness of the song. And this is another one of those tracks that gets more rocky, like more punk sounding, with like the chorus actually being a chorus.
Yeah, and I think that this is maybe one of the examples of maybe a not as perfect... Like, the transitions are good, but the song is very clearly divided as here's the chocolatey synth part, here's the rock part, and then it just kind of keeps swapping those out a little bit for most of it. And
I like it. I like the difference, honestly, between the two like sounds as the track goes on. Like,
yeah, no, I think it works.
Oh yeah, I think they made it work very well.
I just think the structure's a little more transparent than other songs.
I
maybe.
really like the vocal, like the effects put on MC Ride's vocals on this track. The delay and slight reverb that you have, and because you can clearly hear his voice on this because you can clearly hear his voice on this track. So I'm sure there's delay and reverb on the other songs, but this song, because it is so light in instrumentation, you can hear Ride's vocals way more, and I think this song probably has the best vocal mixing, honestly.
Yeah, and definitely the most consistent with trying to get whatever artistic choice that they were trying to get out there.
Yes.
Because, like, the way the guitar tone is matches up perfectly with how the synth is.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's pretty funny, too, because the way, like, the style of chord progression, again, it feels like it's a different genre. This feels more like it's kind of coming from, like, maybe a 70s to 80s feel.
Yeah, maybe.
when I like the first time the chorus hit me, it kind of reminded me of the intro to a very old action TV show.
Yeah.
But that's a very like you would have to like really know what I'm talking about to feel that. I don't know. I'm a very tangential like person, and I think like comparisons from far off things come in my head. But that's,
whatever works.
Like
man.
it kind of like I could see that chorus at the start of like an A-Team episode or something.
Oh yeah, totally.
You know, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. All right. So
it has like a VHS feel applied to the audio, basically.
Definitely, yes, definitely. It definitely has an old sounding filter put on it or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you got nothing else to say about Dilemma, why don't we just move on to Little Richard?
Little Richard's fucking dope.
Okay, so Little Richard is actually another one of the weirder songs on the album because it starts off with like a solid 30 seconds of just synthesizer bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
There's no like this sounds like there's no rhyme or reason to what we're hearing.
No, whatever, man.
This song,
chord progression. Shut up.
This song actually made me.
It's very Tom Morello. Actually.
Yeah, and it made me look into the song a little bit more because of how weird it was, and I actually found a Reddit thread on the Death Grips subreddit where somebody explains their theory that the entire album is more about Richard Chase, the Sacramento vampire, who was a serial killer who killed 6 people within a month and got called the Sacramento Vampire because he would drink their blood and occasionally cannibalize the corpse. Really, really, really fucked up serial killer, but it's kind of...
No, what do you mean?
What do you mean? That's not just normal? You don't just kill 6 people in a month and drink their blood and then eat parts of their body? No, dude.
And you're gonna have to elaborate, dude. I don't understand.
Yeah, whatever. But I will include a link to that thread if anybody wants to read down that rabbit hole in the description of the YouTube video and in the show notes, I guess. But yeah, this song is very... If you were talking about carnival vibes earlier, this song has a very heavy, like... I almost feel like I'm in a Scooby-Doo movie. Like a Scooby-Doo episode listening to this song.
Yeah, it kind of feels like it would be a Scooby-Doo chase.
Yeah.
Like the main part of the song.
The synthesizers and everything just sound very Scooby-Doo.
And just I don't know, the type of electronic sound they went for with the synth, once you get 40 seconds into it past I totally do feel like it sounds like a Tom Morello, like Rage Against the Machine, like guitar part, actually, now the more I listen to it.
Yeah.
But it reminded me of Darude Sandstorm immediately hearing that type of synth.
Oh no.
You know, it's not the same like progression, but that style of synth.
I like the vocal effect put on Ride's voice on this song as well. I like the very electronic sounding, very drowned out by effects sound that they gave Ride on this song.
Yeah, it's kind of robotic.
Very robotic, and I dig that. I don't know what the relevance of it is, but it must have just sounded good. But I do agree, it sounds very good.
It's super interesting that even though they're so experimental, whenever they do have a very out there sound, all the sounds do match up. And so this kind of very electronic heavy synth matches up pretty well with a robotic effect on a voice. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Cool. So, again, another short song. Not very many opinions on it because there's not much to talk about on it. Other than I do assume the song is about Richard Chase, just because it is followed up with the quote from Richard Chase in the next song, The Fear, which we can go into that if you want right now.
The Little Richard can also be translated to Tiny Wiener. All right, we can move on.
God damn you.
Tiny dick.
Tiny dick. Little dick. Okay. So yeah, we can go into the fear then.
Owns you with your pain. What we become strange. Tied up with 4 legs. High help's on the way. Who will help you fall? It's just all so frail. So long since we fail. Still don't know.
The fear is honestly probably one of my least favorite tracks.
Same. It feels more on the experimental for the sake of experimental side.
Which, I mean, isn't a bad thing normally.
Not inherently bad.
Not inherently bad, but... And I'm not saying this track is bad either. It's just a so-so track. It's
a cool creation, but I don't know that I want to listen to it.
Right. Like, I will say I do like the occasional vocal synth they use, or the vocal sample they use, where they kind of sounds like they stretched one out and like pitch shifted it up and down a little bit. Like, I think that's pretty interesting and it's cool, and I like the hook where it's just the fear.
Yeah, and I like that
kind of spacious afterwards.
I like that like 4-note piano that follows the fear vocal track.
Yeah,
a lot of the time, you know.
Yeah, it's just
that's
a
very cool feel to it, but
and then the sound switch up where it goes from being really drivey like that into a more like boom, bah, boom, like more kind of one of those beats, and then like Ride's just kind of shouting over it, and his vocals in this song, they kind of have the call and response feel to it, where he'll shout something and then talk, and then shout something and then talk, and then he'll just scream.
Yeah, and I think that's where the song actually kind of picks up a little bit more for me.
Yeah, that's where it gets a little more listenable, but it's still not one of my favorite songs. And then I don't know why they split the outro from it.
So yeah, because it totally I remember that you.
Yeah, we had that little
asking,
discussion.
You're like, hey, is Disappointed your last song or his outro?
Yeah, I thought Disappointed was like an extra track or something that I had got for pre-ordering. You know, I thought I was special. I thought Death Grips was making me feel special. Yeah. And
at that point, were you just going by song name?
I was just going off of song name.
Because like I think I had just recently finished listening to the album all the way through the first time, and I responded with, I mean, outro sounds like it's an outro to the fear. Like, it just musically it matches up with that.
Yeah, you know? I think at the time I asked you, I was downloading the tracks from the download they sent me. So I was downloading the tracks, but I think I was only on like Ha 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 at the time of my listen through. So I hadn't gotten down to listen to the outro yet. So I honestly just thought it was an outro to the album, and Disappointed was just this extra track. So I was like, oh, okay.
I just noticed that. So the fear, I mean, obviously because it has that vocal, it has that audio from Richard Chase.
Yeah, which Richard Chase. Which it's a recording of somebody speaking his quote. It's not him saying it.
Yeah, because I remembered before I found out that it was about a quote from a murderer, that it just sounded comical and funny. And the person's clearly delivering it as such.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's absurd.
Yes, it's a very absurd statement taken out of context.
Like, going back to it, I just noticed that the intro synth effects and the outro synth effects to The Fear, not the song outro, just the end of The Fear, they do match up with Little Richard also. So it's kind of neat that like with Linda's in custody through Ha Ha Ha, and if you follow that track through Ha 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 and then follow Little Richard through outro, that there's just like these groups of 3 songs that seem to all share
like
similar
a serial
motifs.
killer motif kind of. Yeah, that's really interesting actually.
Like obviously they group them together for a purpose.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, we're not really going to talk about outro at all because it's just an outro to The Fear. Unless you want to, unless there's something that stuck out to you specifically. Okay, so I guess going off that now, let's just get right into Disappointed. So what do you think of this track? To make the obvious pun here, I'm kind of disappointed with it. It's
fine.
It's not. It's just. It doesn't sound like it has any substance to me. It just sounds like noise. Honestly, like this is the one. As crazy as it sounds, this is the one track on the album that just sounds like noise to me.
I like how you're shitting on Death Grips for sounding like noise.
Yeah, no, I know. I see the irony in my statements. This is the one track that I don't like on the album.
I love the verses.
I will agree with that. I like the verses. I like how intense and insane they are, and just how Ride is just seemingly throwing words out of his mouth at the microphone.
Mm-hmm. And I always appreciate when you have. I'm assuming, does he do all the vocals, like all of them?
Oh yeah, he is almost 100% of the vocals,
okay.
If not like 99%.
I would imagine either they would sample it or have someone else in the band sing them live. But I like it when you have the trade-off of vocals where, like really fast, like each person's saying a word,
Yeah.
Basically. I always like that.
Yeah.
And that kind of comes back because a lot of old school thrash bands actually do that too.
Yeah.
So that's neat.
Yeah, I don't know. There was just something about this track that just didn't do it for me. It just didn't do it for me. As a longtime Death Grips listener, it just it didn't tickle me like the other ones do.
I mean, yeah, I liked those verses, but again, the child voice or pitch shifted voice didn't do anything for me.
The hook on Disappointed is just a complete like buzzkill for me.
I mean, obviously, they were self-aware enough when they made the song, but calling it Disappointed.
Yeah, right. Obviously.
Yeah, no, I'll never come back to this album and go, I gotta listen to Disappointed again.
Yeah, no, for me it'll be literally any other song.
And honestly, it may borderline on just skipping.
Yeah, like I might just stop after the outro.
Mm-hmm.
I might just call that good. So, yeah,
it should have been a shorter song.
Yeah, definitely. I could see that. I could see Disappointed working a lot better as one of the like minute and a half, minute long songs. Honestly, I think it would work a lot better as a shorter transition type track. Yeah, I don't know. Outside of that, that's all I really got on the album. The album very, very coherent as a whole. It's probably, I don't think, you know what? I would say it's probably my favorite Death Grips release to date. Like it's very close to The Money Store and Jenny Death from The Powers That Be, the second half of The Powers That Be. It's very close in my terms of ranking with those two albums, but I think Year of the Snitch beats out Jenny Death and The Money Store just ever so slightly. Just because of songs like Flies and Black Paint and Streaky, it's the song just it's a very intense album overall. So I think it's pretty solid.
I mean, based on my experience, I guess it's my favorite Death Grips album. So, like, hey.
Yeah, right. I enjoyed the media, the media releases leading up to it. I enjoyed the cryptic Twitter comeback with Death Grips is online with no context. But I like the album. I mean, I listen to it daily, so I've been listening to it daily since it came out. So I don't hate it.
I would probably make a playlist of my favorite songs and use that to listen to while I do like work or play a video game,
Yeah.
But like I would kind of probably nitpick or cherry pick some songs because of stuff like Outro or Disappointed or maybe partially The Fear too. It's just like I'd like to just listen straight through to the parts that I enjoyed.
Right. Right. For sure.
I'm doing headstands on the Trans Am.
Alright everybody, that does it for this episode where we talked about Death Grips' new album, You're the Snitch. Hope you enjoyed it, and just remember you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook at It Sounds Good Pod. Make sure to also subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts. We're available on YouTube, Google Play, and iTunes currently. Just search up Sound Good Podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.